Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Different things hold on to us and hold us in place and stop us from making progress on the path, stop us from moving forward. It's said that those who feel their own hunger too greatly will never be able to feel the hunger of others. And it's like that for those who are constantly complaining about their state. That act of complaining holds them in place and stops them from being able to move forward because they are too involved with themselves. And part of transcendence is losing that involvement with the self and understanding that by holding on to that involvement with the self, it holds one in place and doesn't allow someone to move forward, even though they're free to do so. It's this mind imagery that people have as to their situation that holds them in place. There was once a king who wanted to become wise and wanted to take on the path of the dervishes. And he called one of his ministers to him and he said, I've been king for a long time and I'm growing weary. I want to become wise. I want you to come back to me within 30 days and tell me how to do this. And the minister, of course, bowed to the king and told him he would do what he asked. And for the next week and 2 weeks, he was troubled because he couldn't figure out how to tell the king what he needed to do to become wise. Now he was down to the last couple of days. And when he was at home, his young daughter, who saw him, said to him, something's troubling you, father. Tell me, I'll try to help you. And he said, you can't help me. It's a very, very difficult problem. He said, tell me, I'll try to help you. And he said, well, the king has told me that I have to give him advice on how to become wise. And I have no idea what to do. And the little girl said to him, when the 30th day comes, take me to the palace with you, and I will solve your problem. So he said, how are you going to solve my problem? She said, don't worry. I'm really much more competent than you think. Take me with you and I'll take care of it. So he took her to the palace and they're standing in front of the king and there are pillars in front of the area where the king is. And the king says to the minister, the father of the little girl, well, have you got advice for me? And as he says that, the little girl starts screaming at the top of her lungs, tie me to the pillar, tie me to the pillar, tie me to the pillar, and making this huge commotion. And the king looks over there and he says, what does she want? And one of the other ministers says, she's screaming, tie me to the pillar. He says, well, then tie her to the pillar. And then again, he asks the minister, have you got advice for me? And then as soon as he says that, the little girl starts to scream again. Now she's screaming, untie me from the pillar, untie me from the pillar, untie me from the pillar, causing this great commotion. And the king says, well, what is going on now? And they explain that the little girl that they just tied to the pillar is screaming, untie me from the pillar. She says, well, then untie her. So they untie her. And then once again, he asks the minister, have you brought me an answer to my question? And the little girl who's just been untied is holding onto the pillar, screaming, untie me from the pillar. And the king has had it. So now he stands up and he looks at the little girl and he said, we already untied you from the pillar. You're free to go. And she looks at the king and she says, you are also free to go. You want to find wisdom? Stop thinking that you're tied to your kingdom. Just go. And the king understood that what he needed to do was begin his journey. And then the little girl looked at him after he smiled and she said, can I go with you? And he said, when you get older, you can come with me on the journey. And it's like that for each of us. We have all of these ideas that hold us in place, that tie us in place, that make it impossible for us to move. And we complain about them. And we act as if these are the hindrances that stop us from going forward. These are the things that make it impossible for us to move forward. I remember when I moved into a new office, and the office was very sparse, and it didn't have decoration yet. It didn't have artwork on the walls. It didn't have things on my desk. And I began to try and decorate the office and get things for the office. And I had trouble getting started working until I got it decorated to the point where I felt comfortable inside the office. Well, the point is, I didn't need any of that decoration in order to work. It's just my head needed that decoration in order to work. And each of us needs to put ourselves in a place where we are capable of moving forward. And we have to see what it is that is stopping us from moving forward. You see, it's all in the attitude. It's all in the mind. It's all in what we conceive as our difficulties, which aren't really difficulties. We have this whole list of things that we are attached to that don't allow us to be free. We have this whole list of things that we actually hold on to that don't allow us to be free. Yet we are free. And to establish that freedom, what we have to do is just move forward and let go of these things. The problem is that we don't want to let go of these things. And it's only when wisdom and perspective enter into us that we can see the difference between that which is truly important for us and that which is superfluous, that which we hold on to for no reason. And there are so many things that we hold on to for no reason. All superstition is like that. And if you look at superstition and the way that you cling to superstition, you can begin to understand how we cling to nonsensible things. It's much easier for us to see how nonsensible other people's superstitions are than ours. So when you see documentaries on cultures and they go through the superstitions of various cultures and the things people do, you can understand how it's all a mental exercise and has nothing to do with any kind of reality. So when it comes to our self, we have to be able to understand that which is an illusion and that which is reality. And if we can't differentiate that, then we'll be led astray. There's the story of Abdul Qadir Jilani, who was praying, and praying was a part of his daily experience. Daily, he would pray at all the appropriate times and in all the appropriate ways. And then one time while he's praying, there comes a voice to him, and it says, Abdul Qadir Jilani, you are a great saint. You have been praying for years and years. You are no longer obligated to pray. And Abdul Qadir Jilani immediately responded, be gone from me, Satan. And the voice disappeared. Abdul Qadir Jilani understood that the obligation to pray can't be taken away from you. We are all obligated to pray. Now, there are many different kinds of prayer, and there are many different ways to pray, but we need to pray. And what, in fact, is prayer? Prayer is a communion between ourselves and our Lord. It is a state where we leave the attachments in this world, and for a period of time, we create an attachment to Allah. We create an attachment to God. We create a communication with our Lord. Now, most of the time, we are involved in various communications with the world. Our empathy is towards things in the world. Our love is towards things in the world. Our devotion is towards things in the world. And as these devotions become strong, they become habitual. So if we become devoted to various worldly aspects, various elemental things in the world, we become addicted to them over time. We become addicted to needing them over time. And that's why we need to be able to break our addiction, our love for the world, our constant mental imaging of things in the world, and our interaction with these things in the world. We have to break it and create a communication with our Lord, create a communication with God. Now, the repetition of rote prayers is okay, but it's not the same as a sincere devotion in your own words to create that connection with your Lord. So do the rote prayers, but also establish a period of time when there is a sincere inward devotion towards reality, when there is a sincere inward awakening of our connection to reality, when we understand the trajectory of our existence and we don't just see the worldly surroundings that we live in but we understand that there is more than what the eye beholds. There's more than what the senses behold. There's more than what we can integrate with our senses. And this comes to through establishing within ourselves mental images first of the fact that what we see is not real, that there's more to this existence than what meets the eye, and that there is a space beyond the space that this body holds. You know, being in this body limits us if we allow ourselves to be limited, because we hold on to this body as if it were our reality. We hold on to this body as if it were who we are. We hold on to this body as if it defines us. And in the world, we define ourselves by the things that we do with this body. So if somebody asks you about yourself, what do you tell them? You may tell them where you're from, defining the space that this body inhabits. You may define yourself by the work that you do, by your intellectual pursuits. But how many people define themselves as a creation of our Lord, who is presently within the body that was created by our Lord, but is on a pathway towards understanding their true self, which is the soul that is within this body? How many people would define themselves that way? How many people would actually answer the question that way? But more importantly, how many of us think of ourselves in that way? How many of us actually understand that we are more than this body, that we are not, in fact, this body? And if we ask ourselves, who am I? Who am I truly? Does that definition begin and end with this physical body that we envelop? Or can we comprehend that there's more to us than this body? In order for us to transcend during this lifetime, during this span that this body has, we have to begin to look at ourselves in new ways. We have to understand ourselves in new ways. We have to understand ourselves not just as a physical manifestation. We have to begin to be able to conceptualize ourselves as other than a physical manifestation, or a manifestation that is without form. We have to be able to begin to understand that and integrate with that. And if we can't do that, if we don't take the time to do that, then we have resolved ourselves to being that which our senses alone comprehend. So if we want to go beyond our senses, we have to concentrate on areas that are beyond our senses. And that concentration has to become one-pointed and very concentrated. That concentration has to be so powerful and so strong that we are not overwhelmed by all of the physical, elemental forces that surround us. So we have to make a break from all of that. We have to make a break from all of the attachments. We have to make a break from everything that we've been taught and learned since we were children about our connection to this physical world. And we have to begin to concentrate on a non-physical existence. Now, how do we go about doing it? What is the methodology for doing it? It's often called meditation. It's often called prayer. It's often called connecting to reality, creating a connection to the truth, understanding the truth. So when we concentrate, when we meditate, we have to meditate beyond physicality. We have to meditate beyond elemental understandings. We have to concentrate and understand beyond manifestation. Now, at first, the understanding, since we don't have it, will be difficult for us. But as we give up our reliance on the physical manifestation within a place of contemplation, within a place of meditation, within a place of quiet surrender to the moment, our senses internalize and we can feel things from within us. And if we help that with what we've learned about truth, we can begin to direct ourselves in the appropriate place and the appropriate way. Now, all of us know the word Rahman. All of us know the word Rahim. All of us say Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. So we know mercy and we know compassion. Now, can we feel mercy? Can we feel compassion? Now, understand that these words and their meanings are way beyond the elemental understandings of this world. These words are divine words. These words have divine meanings. These words have divine understanding. And what we need is to incorporate that divine understanding within ourselves. So when we concentrate on Ya Rahman or Ya Rahim, when we concentrate on mercy, when we concentrate on compassion, we have to understand the divine nature of mercy and the divine nature of compassion, the divine nature of love that is so powerful and so strong and so overwhelming that it created everything that we see. Can you imagine a love that created everything that we see and sustains everything that we see? And it sustains it out of this unconditional love, this unconditional compassion, and this unconditional mercy. So we are the result of mercy and compassion. We are the result of unconditional love. We have been created out of mercy and compassion. And if we want to understand our Creator and the truth of who we are, We have to understand mercy and compassion, and that has to become our reality instead of the petty nature of our materialistic needs within this elemental world. That shift has to occur in us somewhere. When our concentration is entirely on this manifest being and making this manifest being more important, getting this manifest being power, making this manifest being work within the world, when we are concentrating on that, we lose our concentration on reality, because our concentration is on that which is a temporary manifestation that has a span of time, and that span of time will pass, and as it passes, we will disappear with it. We will dissipate with it. But there is more to us than that. So we have to find that more. We have to be concentrated on that more. We have to intend that. And as our intention strengthens, as our intention becomes more real, as our intention becomes stronger, we have within us the requisite wisdom that will bring that intention into being. So don't worry about the fact that you can't know, because that part that knows is already in you. It takes the intention to bring it into being, and that intention has to become very powerful. And that's what's called certitude. Certitude and determination that we intend to know mercy, we intend to know compassion, we intend to know love, we intend to know true love. And how do you come to know these things? You know them by giving them away. You can't hold on to mercy. Mercy, in order to be real, has to be given. So it's a flow. Now, Allah is all merciful. Allah is constantly giving mercy. So you don't have to be afraid of running out of mercy, because the more mercy you give, the more mercy will come to you. The more compassion you give, the more compassion will come to you. The more love that you give, the more love that will come to you. And it comes from a source that is without limit. It comes from a source that has no end. And if you can connect to that source, then you become a reservoir for the entire world. You become a source for the entire world. You become a place where others can find truth through you, because you have tapped in to that cornucopia of endless love, of endless mercy, of endless compassion. And this is what the Sheikh does for each of us. He shows us that place, and he is the example for us of that state that is constantly in the giving mode, that state that doesn't feel deprived, that state that is always satisfied because it knows at all times that it is connected to that source that is beyond deprivation, that source that is constantly giving and can continue to give because its supply is endless. And that's who we are. And that's who we need to know that we are. So all fear of not having enough, all fear of running out of whatever it is that we need, all fear has to leave us. And as that fear leaves us, it is replaced with abundance. And that abundance comes directly from our Lord. And our faith has to be strong that that abundance will continue to come to us. And it will. It has, and it will. It will continue to supply to us all that we need and will take us onto the next steps in our trajectory, which is the steps that are beyond this mortal frame, this mortal body. God is all-knowing and all-merciful. If you read the Quran, those words are repeated over and over and over as if to drive it home that Allah is all-knowing and all-merciful and all-compassionate. And He is looking to be merciful and compassionate to you. So never doubt that God is on your side. Never doubt that God is constantly looking to you to come closer to Him. Rumi once said, "Look at the world and your life as if it's been fixed in your favor." Believe that. It's been put in such a way that you will come out the victor. And what we need to do is believe that. Believe in the truth of His mercy. Believe in the truth of His compassion, and believe in the truth of His love. And if you need proof of that, look at our situation. Look how we've been thrown in the midst of lovers. Look how we've been thrown within a group of people who appreciate each other and who want only the best for each other. Let us continue to stay within people, with people like that, and let us become more and more giving, more and more real, more and more attuned to the nature of truth. And that way, we can not only help ourselves, but help all of creation. May it be so for each and every one of us. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.